50 days until the World Cup. We're talking about the big stories around the big tournament coming up this summer. Can the World Cup invigorate youth soccer in America? Columbus is getting the NWSL, and we'll talk about what it takes to get a Inter-Miami Messi game in your MLS town. That and more on today's Morning Kickaround. Good morning, everybody. Welcome into Wednesday's Morning Kickaround. As you can tell, it's Jason Davis all by himself today, rocking my Where's Waldo kit. I forgot about the sublimated sash in this kit. It's right there. Shout out to all of the Ultras repping this morning. Jeff out there, Fayetteville, North Carolina, Lionsbridge FC. I love when you guys are repping your local clubs. I got Mr. Bob in here as always. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Bob, for all your support. Don't worry about it. Other people will pick up the slack. We also got Mr. Bob turning 71 on May 9th. He's been giving out those memberships to Morning Kickaround. We appreciate that. May 9th also, of course, the big day for Morning Kickaround to be on site in Pawtucket, Rhode Island for our game day style show ahead of Rhode Island FC and the Tampa Bay Rowdies. There's that. Do what Mr. Bob says. Hit that like button, that thumbs up button for today's show. That would be fantastic. I got Chris. There goes Chris, an MK Ultra. Thank you very much. Shrimper Steve is here. By the Big Lake is here. Bill Barrett. Callan Reese. Did I get everybody on the screen? There's Callan Reese. There's Bill Barrett. Oh, Matt, that's Matt. There's Bill Barrett right there. You guys are going so fast. A Homeless Shoe. Mountain to Sea FC Dwayne. Gifted 5 Morning Kickaround memberships. You know what that deserves, Dwayne? Let me see. Where is it? There, I should have put it on for you today, Dwayne. Here is my Mountains to Sea FC shirt. It's a beaut. It's as you can see, an Olive and York joint. They sent me that. I don't want to throw it on the ground, so I got to be very careful. Hanging it back over there in the studio. All right. Well, again, we've got a lot to get into today in terms of the World Cup. 50 days into the World Cup. Hi, John. I play French horn. Champ, Tulsa Mario, my guy. Buenos Dias. Eric Anderson, everybody is here. Clank the Clanger. Who are we clanking the clanger for, John? Who are we clanking the clanger for? I don't actually know what that's all about. All right, so again, I've already teased that show coming up in Pawtucket, Rhode Island on May 9th. You can send us an email, communicate with the show by dropping us a line, morningkickaround@gmail.com. We've got some interesting emails recently from people reaching out. You can always do that. You can follow us, obviously, on social media. Instagram, Blue Sky, at Morning Kickaround. Sorry, M Kickaround, of course. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, regardless of what your level of investment in the show is, subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to Morning Kickaround on YouTube. And if you do want to just throw us some cash in the most randomest way possible, coffee.com, Ko-Fi, whatever we're calling that, is where you can do that as you see it on the screen right now. So Rob usually does this work, so I got to make sure that I've got all of the boxes checked here before we move on. Okay. Oh, by the way, we're a podcast. Have we mentioned that recently? We every day that we do a show, producer Jenny posts the show as a podcast. So look for Morning Kickaround, one word, and you can listen to the show rather than watching it if you're on the run somewhere. I never recommend watching the show while you're driving. Probably better to listen to the show while you're driving. That's yeah, Jenny agrees with me there. Okay. I think that's some business done. I think I've said hi to all of the Ultras who have jumped. PSU to DCU is in here as well. Tulsa Mario gifting 5 members. I was going to set a goal today. You guys just cleared it. Didn't even need to do any goal setting. You guys are incredible. Thank you so much for supporting Morning Kickaround. All right, with that said, again, 50 days into the World Cup, let's dive into the news here on this Wednesday episode. All right, we're back here on Morning Kickaround again. 50 days left until the World Cup in the United States of America, plus Canada and Mexico as well, and let me go ahead and tell you as we talk World Cup that MK's World Cup coverage is brought to you now by Oakland County FC, celebrating 10 years of summer soccer in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Tickets on sale now. Visit Oakland County FC online for those and other things. So, lots of you may have seen this story from The Athletic, dropped by Adam Crafton and Henry Bushnell, who have been great on this beat covering the World Cup here in the United States. Ticket sales for the U.S.'s high price World Cup opener against Paraguay in Los Angeles, lagging behind other matches in that city, according to a document distributed to local organizers and a variety of other indicators. They got a hold of this document from April 10th that says that 40,934 tickets purchased for that June 12th match against Paraguay, compared to 50,000 for the Iran-New Zealand game, which is 3 days later in the same venue, SoFi Stadium. Capacity for SoFi is listed at 69,650. So we're talking about nowhere near a sellout. A little bit, 60% of tickets. Now, the document, according to Adam and Henry, does not indicate that there are tens of thousands of seats still available, because we don't exactly know what level of hospitality and other types of tickets that weren't sold to the general public might already be claimed. So $1,940. And throw up Andrew, who's not an ultra but gets in here with a good bit of information. $1,940 for a ticket for that game. $1,940. The document seems to confirm a growing body of evidence the U.S. opener has not been selling as well as expected. When FIFA first put those tickets on sale in October, it priced them as the third most expensive ticket of the entire tournament. And look, I've seen our friend Travel Football Fan jump in on this issue and say, look, lots of people who maybe were planning to travel or planning things around the World Cup saw the ticket prices, went, whoop, I think I got to wait to see if those prices are going to come down. And this is the double-edged sword issue. I mean, obviously, we think the dynamic pricing element is bullshit because FIFA is trying to milk American soccer fans. Now, dynamic pricing can work two ways. It can also bring prices down when there isn't enough demand. But if you are a person who cannot pay $2,000 to go see the United States men's national team open up the World Cup in Los Angeles, you may think, all right, what's the better move here? Let me wait. Well, first, I can't afford it. Maybe I won't go. Oh, wait, I'll wait, and maybe dynamic pricing will bring those ticket prices down. And I think that's probably what's going on here, right? FIFA has kept prices frozen at $2,730, $1,940 per Andrew, and $1,120 in its three main categories for USA Paraguay. It's the only match featuring a co-host that has not seen prices hiked over the last 6 months. So they kept those prices frozen because they're not selling enough out of them. In fact, compare this to the Category 1 prices for Mexico's opener against South Africa, which has jumped from $1,825 in October to $2,985 right now. So those prices, those prices, tickets to USA Paraguay have been selling slowly. Thousands have been listed on FIFA's ticketing site ever since the so-called last-minute sales phase began on April 1st. We talked about that with Travel Football Fan. So, this is a problem that FIFA has created. I think one thing that we do as American soccer fans is we look at ourselves and we put the blame on ourselves when these games don't sell out. Traditionally, right? There's always this debate in American soccer, like when the United States plays Mexico in the United States and the stadium is 75%, 85% Mexico fans. And people are like, well, why don't American fans go? And in some cases, it is just the fact that the passion levels for the other team, in that case, Mexico, are higher. I mean, is that a fair way to describe it? Are there enough people who care desperately about the U.S. men's national team to go and basically outbid or to scoop up those tickets before Mexico fans who are desperate to see those teams? And, a game like USA-Mexico in the United States is also a festival, a gathering, a cultural celebration for Mexican Americans that kind of isn't replicated anywhere else. And so there's this question of, okay, do we just not care enough? And then we blame ourselves for not caring enough. Now, obviously, prices for tickets are a factor here. And unlike, say, a premium event like an NFL playoff game or obviously the Super Bowl, there just aren't enough people who center their whole sports life around the idea of going. And I say enough people, right? There are some, clearly, but there aren't enough. Now, in addition to this news about the USA Paraguay game not selling, thought I would bring in this website that actually Travel Football Fan told me about that apparently claims to tell people or claims to reveal where FIFA is actually putting their seat lottery winners. Now, it's seat-transparency.com if you're interested, if you can see that on the screen. And I'll say that, again, this was forwarded to me by a Travel Football Fan, but he has not confirmed the accuracy of all of this. No one is vouching for the accuracy of this website necessarily, right? It hasn't been independently verified. And it does say that you can anonymously submit. So here, got a corner two, add your seat to the data. Anonymous takes 30 seconds. If that's not being vetted, now I don't know exactly how that works. I haven't clicked the button. I don't have a seat, right? I don't have a ticket to upload here, a seat to upload into the database. But if it's not sort of vetting that you actually do have a seat, then there could be some bad data here. That's just, look, it's just an acknowledgement. But look at these numbers. All right, so look, we're taking with a grain of salt, but somebody is trying to do the work here to try to indicate exactly what FIFA is doing to people. FIFA's category map included midfield. Lottery winners got everything else. And again, this is the idea that you went into the lottery, you got category 1, category 2, category 3 seats. You're extremely excited to see where your tickets would be, and they ended up shunting you into a corner. You might not be able to see this graph here, but it says where lottery winners were actually assigned. 10% midfield, 20% sideline, 51% corner, and 20% behind the goal. And if on this map here, you can see in that inner bowl, it's category 1. All of the red is category 2. That includes the upper deck on the sidelines. Category 3, all the blue, that's the end lines. And then category 4, which there's tiny little corners. You can barely see them. Tiny little corners right there are category 4. Those were the cheapest tickets I've made available. But here it is, their ultimate number. 70% of lottery winners placed in corners are behind the goal. Now, this is saying that there's 595 submissions. So 57 out of 595 winners got midfield. And then they have it broken down by stadium. They have the reports here. And again, this is at least some effort to actually give people information about what FIFA is doing with their tickets. When you go into this, oh, I'm so excited to go to the World Cup. Let me get into the lottery. I'm going to buy these seats. And here we are, watching these seats go into corners when people are paying out the nose to buy the seats. Looking at some of the comments here as we kind of move back into the question of that U.S. game against Paraguay in Los Angeles, and obviously, again, New Zealand, Iran in Los Angeles, PSU to DCU. An Iranian friend of mine bought tickets to every Iranian game, plus the final cost him $20,000. Wow. Obviously, there is a large expat community of Iranians in Los Angeles. I mean, and of course, there is the backdrop of the geopolitical situation happening and how it's affecting everything. And in fact, on that very issue, there's another story out from Henry Bushnell that indicates that the presumed hotel boom is not happening. And, on one level, that's bad because it indicates the demand is not nearly what FIFA promised or what it could have been if there wasn't, again, this difficult geopolitical situation. But also, it's kind of good that, hotel prices aren't going as high as they could if there was that demand. I don't know. But here are some choice quotes from this piece at The Athletic. We're leaning on them a lot today. It's not the cornucopia that FIFA talked about, said the president and CEO of the Hotel Association of New York City. That's one location, and there's some, specific kind of reporting going on in terms of the hotel situation in places like New York, which may be different than a place like Dallas, for example. Another quote, Chris Nassetta, longtime president and CEO of Hilton Hotels and Resorts, admitted at a conference in D.C. last week Quote, the World Cup at this point doesn't look as strong as what we had hoped. Now, and again, like, this is of FIFA and the American government's making, I think, is probably the right way to look at it. Right. And again, some of this is anecdotal, right? That we're hearing from people that they're not going to go, that they're not buying tickets. People are frustrated. You're just kind of seeing the demand. Of course, FIFA is claiming everything is fine, that there's going to be this massive boom. In fact, FIFA was touting, I think, it was an insane number in terms of what the World Cup will inject in terms of economic activity for the United States. I don't have that in front of me here, but it's a dumb number. It's something insane that really FIFA probably, or the tournament really could have never lived up to, but just goes to show, because of how short this tournament is coming up, how much FIFA fudges those numbers. Now, to be fair, all others remain bullish and expect travel bookings to pick up over the coming month. We're not ready to pull the fire alarm yet, said Eric Hansen, the U.S. Travel Association's head of government relations, told The Athletic. Now, he's also in a job that's kind of like, well, maybe he's got to play nice with the idea that the government hasn't screwed up the World Cup. In the aftermath of the World Cup draw and schedule revealed in December, this is interesting, then The Athletic analyzed hotel prices in the 16 markets, right? So this is going back to December, when we found out where teams were going to be, where they were going to play. The 96 hotels in the sample were on average charging $1,013 per night around the opening match in their respective cities, compared with $293 for an equivalent stay in late May, exactly 3 weeks earlier. That's an average increase of 328%. The extent of the surge varied from city to city, but touched every market and co-host country. In the U.S., the average per-night price rose from $315 in late May to $1,028 during the first week of the tournament. And here we are, 4 months later, at the same hotels. Prices for those same June dates have fallen more than 40% from their earlier peak. Yeah. I mean, again, like, what was supposed to happen isn't happening. And we'll see what the aftermath of this is, if anybody wants to ultimately take responsibility for what's going on here. And of course, we've been talking on this show about the issues with transportation, right? $150 for a ticket on New Jersey Transit to go from New York to New Jersey for games in Jersey at the Meadowlands at MetLife Stadium, right? Insane price increases on public transportation. Now, there's the report that Philadelphia is not charging anything to get away from the stadium, and they're keeping the usual fare. It's still, it's obviously different circumstances for different places. In Jersey, they're saying FIFA's got all these requirements that they're foisting upon us, and it's going to cost a lot of money, and the government's not meeting the funding demand that we have, and we're not going to pass those costs on to our residents, who would have to pay that increase in taxes, or we'd have to move budgets around. So we're going to charge the people who are coming to the games a lot more to use our travel solutions. That is a major part of this story, right? Then we have the fan fests and how those in some places are going to cost people money. It's no longer going to be the sort of free-wheeling experience FIFA was touting. If you go read that Athletic story on the hotel issue, FIFA was touting tens of millions of people coming into the country to just be around the vibes. That was what they were saying before this World Cup, before all of this before all the data started flowing, because we now know exactly just how much demand there is or is not for the World Cup. Here's that number I was looking for. The World Cup, according to FIFA's socioeconomic impact analysis last year, could help drive $40.9 billion in GDP in the United States. And it included an assumption that 40% of the total stadium attendance would consist of foreign tourists. And again, I'll come back to the geopolitical situation, or the political situation in the United States with some of these issues around visas and travel. If so, more than 2.5 million seats of the World Cup's 104 matches would be filled by foreigners, is what FIFA's analysis suggested. Infantino said last week that there would be tens of millions from all over the world coming to the U.S. just to feel the vibe. Man, I don't know. Right? Again, like the sad thing for us as American soccer fans is this going to actually connect with a soccer community, a culture, help grow our game? Because that's what so many of us want to see. The World Cup be this opportunity to boost the fortunes of soccer in America. Now, I ask about your end game there. You just want more soccer fans to be around because it's more fun to have more soccer fans. We want more stadiums filled because those environments are better and we enjoy the game more. Is it because we want more participation, more demand, more accountability, more pressure because that might make us a World Cup champion one day? Right? That's kind of in the air, this question of what we're working towards. In fact, I'll shift to a question around that as we're on our World Cup theme. And this is a story over at USA Today. And this comes out of that report that some of you may have seen from the Aspen Institute about youth soccer. John Solomon, research director for the Aspen Institute Sport and Society program, they did a survey. This was specifically on New York and New Jersey. But I mean, they think about this as fairly representative. There's some issues that are different in New York than they would be in other places because of density. But let's just look at these numbers. According to the Aspen survey, completed by 693 youth soccer players who live in New York or New Jersey, they most value playing with friends, 48%, having fun, 46%, improving skills, 45%, winning, 23%, and pursuing scholarships. They rank much lower. And yet here we are. The system is driven almost entirely by competitive goals, often overlooking the sport's broader physical, mental, social, and academic benefits. This is in that report. And again, this is like the question that is posed by Stephen Borelli at USA Today is, can the World Cup bring back fun in American youth soccer? Right? And as I have a 5-year-old who is embarking upon his athletic journey right now, as I stare down the barrel of what youth sports look like in America, as I get ready to see if I'm going to put my kid in this soccer program or that soccer program, at this point in his life, it should just be about participation, learning some basic skills, and having some fun. There will be a day, I imagine, where there'll be a choice for me and a choice for him. Just how serious are you taking this? Like, just how important is this? Aspen Sport and Society has a signature initiative called Project Play. And their goal is to build healthy communities through sports, get more kids playing sports. Soccer is obviously a major part of this. And you know, again, like, are we a country that cannot pull it back from where we are with just how intense we are about youth sports and specifically our sport of soccer because of the money in the machine? Solomon saying there's this idea of creating transparency and oversight in youth sports organizations, because right now there is not a lot of that. This is not going to change overnight about how highly commercialized sports is. But one thing we talk about in the report is to protect families, try to restore trust. Federal and state authorities could require mandatory financial transparency for all youth sports organizations, right? We're getting to that level of this is such a big business, and parents need to know if they can trust the people running these youth clubs. And we need financial transparency. Because right now, highly isolated, very limited transparency. And this, right? And some of you will know this. The report notes, for example, how club coaches over-roster teams to maximize fee collection, effectively sidelining players to fund professional staff. So they're signing up more kids at these exorbitant rates to play youth soccer. Those kids aren't playing because you got too many kids and not enough spots on the field. And they're using those fees to pay the coaches, pay the staff, run the club. Again, this is the machine as it runs. Now, we have talked about pay to play fairly recently on this show. And the easy, pat answer to the problems of American soccer that everybody throws out, that answer is get rid of pay to play. Right? Every commentator, analyst, former player that has an opinion on American soccer, every former national team coach is out there yelling about pay to play or making this the pointed issue of why American soccer cannot reach its full potential because of pay to play. We need an environment where kids do not have to pay thousands of dollars to get reasonable coaching so they can be good soccer players. The money has to come from somewhere else. So, I mean, again, how do we get there? It highlights how the best soccer programs recognize that early athletic ability rarely predicts future success. This has long been an issue in American soccer, right? Just because a kid is fast or big or whatever it is at 6, 7, 8 years old doesn't mean they're going to be a good soccer player. Instead, they prioritize positive environments and quality coaching. Project Play recommends equal playing time for all children through age 12, arguing that benching players stifles growth. How can you know? How can we know if a player is good if they just aren't playing? Now, again, and I see it in the chat. Replace pay to play with what? With what? Like, the money's not coming from the parents. Where's it coming from? Now, there's the largesse of foundations and individuals who could write big checks. Call up your local billionaire and see if he'll fund you soccer in your area. Now, that piecemeal approach, and again, just kind of hoping people want to build American soccer by investing at this level rather than, buying a soccer team or signing up for NWSL expansion, we'll get to in a second. Right? Those things are maybe possibilities. But that doesn't fix the whole system. That's sort of like a Band-Aid here, a Band-Aid there. And I don't know. I mean, this is going to be incremental. This is going to be over time. The more clubs we have, and I don't think this is a panacea either, but the more clubs we have that have an interest in developing players for their own benefit, whether it's to win soccer games or to sell those players on. And I don't love that because that can be exploitative as well. The idea that, hey, we just need to get as many kids into our system as possible because we need to get some talent out of this so we can sell a kid for $1 or $2 or $5 million and obviously keep our business going. Right? That business. Now, there are pay-to-play situations in Europe. Don't think that doesn't happen, especially in an era where specialized coaching is often the way for rich parents, wealthy parents, people who have money to give their kid an advantage. In this country, that's largely been based on scholarships for college. But we're now getting to a place where, all right, professional soccer is now a viable pathway for a lot of American kids. How do you get it? How do you create a pathway that's not going to cost a family $50,000 over the life of a kid's career to get there? And again, less talented kids subsidizing the other kids cause parents issues. Right. Let's sign up a kid because his parents can pay, but he's not good enough, but we're going to get him playing time because his parents paid. Whereas a kid who maybe is a better player, but isn't paying as much, or we gave him a scholarship, maybe he's got an issue. All right. So that's the World Cup update as we are 50 days away from the tournament. Man, can the World Cup bring fun back to youth soccer? Such a big question. You saw it there in that last slide. In fact, let me put that up one more time just to show it off. The theme gets back to Solomon's question about the lasting impact of the World Cup, which the report underscores. What if the legacy of the World Cup for kids is pretty simple? Return fun to more kids so soccer becomes a lifelong pastime rather than a stressful elite pursuit. And the question I will throw on top of that is whether or not that will get us where we as fans want our game to be in terms of our domestic league's strength, how good that league is compared to others around the world, and whether our national team on the men's side can win a World Cup. And obviously, this is also tied into girls soccer. Gets a lot of mention in the story at USA Today from Stephen Borelli. Go read it because that's an issue as well. Giving access to girls who want to play soccer. So much of this comes down to field space. Much of this comes down to encouraging kids, giving them an opportunity to play pickup soccer, because one thing we are very good at when it comes to soccer in the United States is compartmentalizing it, segmentizing a kid's life. You go to school, you do your homework, you play with your friends. Oh, but soccer is this very official on the schedule thing you do for a certain amount of time. It's regimented. You've always got a coach around. You've always got a drill to do, not just go out and play some soccer. And I don't think that's a panacea either. Pickup soccer doesn't just make a World Cup champion, but pickup soccer is important towards the idea of a culture that has kids wanting to play and then translating those skills that they learn playing pickup soccer to being one day maybe professional athletes. All right, let's pause here on Morning Kickaround. Take a slight break. Got the big news out of Columbus, Ohio. Columbus is getting an NWSL team. That's next on MK. All right, we're back on Morning Kick Around. The big news out of Columbus, Ohio yesterday is that Columbus is going to get an NWSL expansion franchise. Will be number 18 in the NWSL, a league that is growing by leaps and bounds, taking advantage of a very intense interest in that league. Jessica Berman, who takes a lot of heat for some of the questionable things she does, has certainly been a steward of whatever it is she says of the league's. I don't know. She said some very corporate-y things recently that were bouncing around the internet that do not make people feel comfortable about the way that NWSL is moving. And this is example. This is a perfect example. This news out of Columbus about the Haslam family and the Edwards, both of whom have interest in the Columbus Crew. The Haslams, the majority owners of the Columbus Crew, of course, also majority owners of the Cleveland Browns. But this is a perfect example of the two-sided coin that is American soccer growth. Because on the face of it, in a very facile reading of what is happening in Columbus, you look and go, awesome. Women's soccer in Columbus, Ohio. Women's soccer being played in that stadium they built 5 years ago for the Crew, the stadium that came out of the Save the Crew movement when the Haslam stepped in to buy that team and keep them in Ohio, when Anthony Precourt was trying to take the Crew and move them to Austin, Texas. All this stuff is, like, on the face of it, very positive. There's a demand. There's a wealthy family. They want to invest in soccer. They're bringing the sport to the people. They're keeping the original MLS franchise in Columbus, and now here they are adding a women's team, adding an NWSL side. And there's a lot of excitement around the NWSL. Look at what Denver just did with their record crowd at Mile High Stadium. Look what Boston Legacy is doing, getting people out in Foxborough for now as they build their stadium. I mean, look at all the cities that are clamoring for the NWSL. It's big news. It's great news. Fantastic. We love this. Girls will have role models. People can go out and watch games and enjoy the growth of women's soccer, which is among the most entertaining sports products out there in America right now. I say this as a Washington Spirit fan that would really like my team to win another championship. It's been a tough couple years trying to get over that hill. But the other side of this coin is what it takes, or what things need to fall into place for these very wealthy individuals who really don't need the help to feel like they can buy an NWSL franchise, pay the expansion fee of $205 million. And by the way, where's that money going? Well, that money is going back to the owners of the NWSL to repay them for the diluted shares that they now have with another team in the league. This is the MLS model, a model that a lot of soccer fans will tell you is a bad model, a model that incentivizes these wealthy people to do things for themselves and not for the good of the game. Right now, there is a tension always in the air around sports, big-time sports. They are a business. Right? They are a business, and in order for the kind of resources to be invested in those businesses that we want so they can win, so they can put a good product on the field, and in the case of our game, they can measure up to what we watch around the world, or be in the market for players in a competitive way. In order for those things to happen, these wealthy people have to feel like, oh, this is a good value proposition for me. And what that means in a lot of places is taking handouts. And sometimes it means cities and counties, localities being willing to step up and hand out that money in order to entice a wealthy person to drop $200 million on an expansion fee. Right? And again, like, this is the idea that there's going to be some economic development that comes from having the team in town. And not only the economic development, but the civic pride that comes with having another team that people can rally around. And of course, let's not pretend that when it comes to women's soccer, there's not also this idea of, oh, we're being progressive and we're opening up opportunities and we get to dress ourselves in the positive PR that comes from investing in women's soccer. And I'm not saying it's only cynical what the Haslams are doing in Columbus. I'm saying that is always part of the story. It's always some element of the story when it comes to why these people are investing in this stuff. And in terms of the handouts that are at play here in Columbus, a couple of votes over the last couple of days hurried the announcement from NWSL, got this across the finish line. And the thing that is bothering people most in Columbus who have a concern over this is the Columbus City Council giving a piece of parkland to the Haslams and to the new NWSL franchise to build a training facility. This is called McCoy Park. The city council voted to hand this park over to the NWSL team to build this training facility. They also committed $25 million of city funds to entice the Haslams to pay the $205 and build this. I mean, again, would this have happened? Would the Haslams have bought the team? Would they have invested in the NWSL? Would NWSL be in Columbus if it wasn't for this public money? After the city council voted yes, the county voted on $25 million. That happened, I believe, yesterday morning. And again, the release came almost immediately after that. Over at matternews.org, there's a write-up of this. This is actually from 2 days ago, so this is before a couple of votes. But this kind of outlines what is going on here. There were plans for this McCoy Park, promises that had been made to the community there, and now that park has been taken away. There is supposedly, and I don't know how firm this is, a commitment from the Haslams to help fund the search for another park that can fill the same void that this McCoy Park plan was supposed to fill. And again, some of this, I believe, was for members of the community who have disabilities. I'm not sure exactly what the plan was in terms of that, but it was not just, oh, we're just going to take a piece of parkland. It's just a park. But there was some other elements to this. The improvements to the park, planned with community input, paid. They had paid architectural renderings. They included amenities that would enable physically disabled people to use the park in new and better ways. Right, that was on the table. That was the plan for McCoy Park, and now this is going to be the training facility for the new NWSL team. Right, and I do look. I don't know that everybody wants to dive into the sticky questions that exist around these things. I don't know if everybody loves the idea of having to think about this, having to think about who the owners of the clubs we care about are or what they're involved in, the things that may not align with our values. Some people will either have the same values as those owners, in which case it's not a concern at all, or they may be people who say, you know what, I have to make my peace with this because I either make my peace with the values of the ownership that don't align with mine, or the things that they do that feel a little shady, that feel definitely cynical. The idea of public money going to a private concern, I may not like that, but if I can't make peace with that, I can't support this team. I can't enjoy the soccer. Right? I'm seeing a comment about the crew training ground. Why they can't use the crew training ground, I don't know. But as I said before, part of the deal is that they're making noise about how they're investing in women's soccer. And this is a women's soccer only facility. And look at what we're doing here. Whitney Haslam Johnson, managing partner of the Haslam Sports Group, said, "We are building a state-of-the-art 45,000 square foot training facility for the women. It'll be about 15 minutes from the stadium. It'll be complete and ready to go for the opening of the season. We'll be definitely doing some updates within Scott's Miracle Grow Field, which is where the crew play now and where this team will play. We'll be adding a women's locker room. They're going to, again, they're spending money to give the women a proper home. And look, that the women's soccer players, just like every other professional soccer player, deserve a proper place to play, a proper place to train. The professionalism needs to be as high as it can possibly be. But in some cases, again, this is a question of whether that public-private partnership. And by the way, I saw this shared. Again, people are talking about this issue of the money that the city and the state are passing on to the club in order to make this happen. But there are at least some indications that not all of the plans are, or how this money will be paid back, or what exactly the mechanism is for this $25 million from each of these entities going to the new NWSL team, how it will be used. It's not completely transparent what's going on here, right? So again, if you want to get informed about any of this, I would suggest doing some research, going out and looking at this. If you just want to be excited for women's soccer, for the NWSL's growth, for the Columbus area to have a women's team, then I guess ignore all that, right? there will be some people within the NWSL community who very much want that league to grow and thrive who will be saying, is this the right way to do this? Is this how it should be done? I have also seen plenty of discussion about why Columbus, right? Does this speak to the avarice at hand from the owners that are currently already invested in the NWSL, from the people in charge? Because if you were just kind of taking a look at what would be good for women's soccer, especially when we are in an environment when often, in fact, this is the regular occurrence, when we get to a point of how much are you going to pay the players, right? And that $205 million, I believe, is enough to have paid every NWSL player salary for the last 5 years. And that's what the expansion fee is. But that question of exactly how are you doing this? Right? When the owners come to the table and say, we can't pay you, our business isn't strong enough, we can't increase the salary budget, right? Because keeping that salary budget low is what makes this a good value proposition for the people who have hundreds of millions of dollars and are willing to spend it, but only if they get some promises here about what the salary budget will be. Haslam's, everybody else in the NWSL benefits from an environment where they can claim that there's not enough money to pay the players a lot more. And if you were just looking at the map and thinking what gives the NWSL the best leverage when it goes to the table to get a television rights deal, or when it goes, what gives the NWSL the best opportunity to reach as many people as possible? And I'm not saying don't give a team to Columbus, but Columbus wouldn't be on your list. Not for 3 or 4 or 5 new expansion teams. Now, maybe you don't have an ownership group in those places. I mean, that's the thing, right? You have to have somebody willing to pay the expansion fee. This is $40 million more than what Arthur Blank is paying for Atlanta to get an NWSL team. Both those teams will start in 2028. What's the explanation for the increase? Exactly. Right? It's on one hand, oh, great, they're bringing us women's soccer. And then they get to say, we're gifting this to you, or present it that way. We're gifting you women's soccer, Columbus. Look at us. Look how great we are. And on the other hand, they wouldn't be doing this if there weren't some guarantees, if there weren't some cost controls, if there wasn't some public money going their direction to make it all happen. Look, I think it's ultimately a positive for the growth of soccer. We are dot the map, and this is dotting the map. In fact, you know what? In the grand spirit of the show, we have to clang the clanger, don't we? Let's. Oh, I've seen a couple of Clang the Clanger shirts out in the wild over on the Discord. Oh, by the way, if you want to become an MK Ultra, get access to the Discord, join these conversations there. Go ahead and sign up on the channel. It's a great way to support the show, and you get some bonus stuff as well. All right, let me go back into the chat because haven't really responded to this. Yeah, everyone has a local billionaire soccer fan. That was from earlier with our discussion about youth soccer. I see that. How is FIFA promoting the fun of soccer with its money grab? Obviously, that's off of that. Yeah, I mean, in terms of call the NWSL Columbus crew of same ownership, build on brand. Okay, well, I don't know what they're going to call this team. I do see we have a new member. Shout out to Edward, who became a member of the channel. Thank you very much for your support, Edward. Fantastic news that we're adding you to the family. The Discord link is currently posted to the channel for members only. I think it's still good. If it's not, I'll post a new link so that you can get in to the chat and join the family over there with the MK Ultras. All right, we got one more topic today, and it involves Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi and Inter Miami will play a midweek match in Utah against RSL. They're going to play that game in RSL's regular venue. Of course, just this past weekend, Lionel Messi helped the Colorado Rapids set an attendance record with their game at Mile High Stadium. We're going to talk about the traveling Messi roadshow and just what kind of links clubs need to do to get their piece of the Messi pie when we come back on Morning Kickaround. All right, we're back on Morning Kickaround here on a Wednesday. Again, tonight in Sandy, Utah, Real Salt Lake will take on Inter Miami in Major League Soccer at America First Field, home of RSL, right? The place that used to be called The Riot has a whole song about that. RSL not playing this game in a massive NFL venue like the Colorado Rapids just did this weekend. The Rapids set an attendance record. Lionel Messi scored a classic Lionel Messi goal. Thousands upon thousands of soccer fans in Colorado got the show, and there were lots of pink jerseys in the stands at Mile High, where the Denver Broncos typically play, where the Rapids are the home team. Nevertheless, a ton of pink jerseys. And if you're wondering what the balance here is, right, the competitive element, the support element, and how many teams have now done this? Chicago, I guess they already play in a giant venue. They didn't need to move. We just talked about Columbus. They, of course, took their Inter Miami game last year to Cleveland so they could sell more tickets, so they could apparently try to capture more fans. And there is a question of, do you convert fans to your hometown team when Lionel Messi comes and you're basically selling the idea of come see the go? And with Messi going to Utah and off the back of what happened in Colorado, I saw this over on Blue Sky. This is John Mueller commenting on a block of text about the job that Colorado had to do to sell Major League Soccer on letting them have a Messi game. So in that text there, it says, convincing the league that the club and market were deserving and an Inter Miami match was among Dermer, then we'll get back to who that is, first priorities in the job last summer. She sought advice from other Western Conference teams who had previously earned a Messi visit. Let me just say that again. Earned a Messi visit, implying what? That Major League Soccer is basing its schedule, at least when it comes to Inter Miami away matches, and I guess on the West Coast or in the western part of the country, on who deserves the match. Basically selling the idea that we can put more people in the stands or whatever. Minnesota United, she worked with, including Minnesota United, she worked with her staff to put together a pitch deck to present MLS brass. John Mueller rightfully pointing this and going, what? How to play another team in your league at home. Other leagues, be in the same league. MLS, send a delegation to league headquarters to present a pitch deck with fan acquisition figures and partnership considerations, demonstrating that it will help you reinvest in your flywheel to create rocket fuel. These are obviously like some of the things that you might hear out of Don Garber's mouth. Okay. Now, off of what I saw from John Mueller, I was like, okay, where's this story? I need to know more. So this is from the Sports Business Journal. And this goes into more about what the Rapids needed to do to earn a Messi game. Dermer said the Rapids had previously tried unsuccessfully to land a Messi match. She attributed this to a perception at the league level that the organization was unprepared to capitalize, quote, from a flywheel standpoint on the excitement and buzz of hosting an opponent like Inter Miami. There's that word flywheel. Convincing the league that the club and market were deserving of an Inter Miami match was among Dermer's first priorities in the job last summer. This is the part we just read. Now, here's my question to you, American soccer fan. Is this the way to do it? Now, it rubs me the wrong way. And I have very strong traditionalist leanings. My ideas are everybody should play everybody if you can get away with it. Now, Major League Soccer, that ship has sailed a long time ago because of the size of the league. Because with 30 teams and soon probably to be more, you're not playing a balanced schedule. You're not playing 58 games in a season. You're not doing that. Not with playoffs. And even if you got rid of the playoffs, 58 games is an insane amount of games. So what is the answer? Now, if you cared about the competitive integrity of your competition over everything else, if that was the first priority, well, then you would try to balance it as much as possible. You might even split the league in half, 15-15, play 28 games home and away against your conference or whatever your half of the league might be. And you could sprinkle in a couple more. And I think that's actually where we're headed, right? That's That's where Major League Soccer is headed with this. Now, you could, again, that sprinkling in unbalances the schedule. If you really care, again, about the competitive integrity, you'd split the league. You play 28 games within your conference as it currently sits. And then you would do playoffs, and maybe you cross over at some point in the playoffs, or maybe you wait until the MLS Cup final. Those are options, right? Or as I'm seeing in the chat, 36 teams, balanced schedule. All right. I mean, what, we're playing 35 games. You're just not playing everybody home and away. You're playing everybody once. All right. And I'm not even going to entertain Pro Rel right now, guys. I know it's out there. I know it's going to get mentioned, but we're not entertaining that. But let's consider this from Major League Soccer's perspective. And I guess this is, again, about the maturity of American soccer. Now, if you are a person who just throws everything MLS does under the blanket of they only care about money, they do not care about the game at all, then this isn't a question of maturity, because you don't think there ever will be a moment when MLS does actually just say, okay, well, we're strong enough. We don't have to worry about stuff like this. Right, but here we are, 20 years on, almost, from David Beckham arriving in America. And we're still in this place where you take the big marquee name. Now, admittedly, he's the biggest marquee name. He's the biggest name on the planet. He is the best player in the world. So there's a difference in kind here in terms of how Lionel Messi might impact your visibility. So when you talk about should MLS, quote unquote, maximize Messi's presence in America, right? Is that the right, like, again, if we're talking about what do we want in order to get our league and our game to a higher level, if the idea is that Lionel Messi traveling around the country, going to a place because they can pitch on the idea that they can leverage this into a flywheel of rocket fuel, if that ultimately benefits the game in the big picture sense, all the boats go up with the tide, then you can justify this. You can justify this. It just does feel uncomfortable. There were numeric figures in there. There were fan acquisition figures in there. There were partnership considerations in there. There's a lot at stake for this club right now from a financial standpoint. This helps us reinvest in our flywheel to help create some rocket fuel. Oh, God. All right, I didn't know it was actually in there. I thought John was just having a laugh. They reinvest in their flywheel to help create rocket fuel. That was the pitch. And again, they sent a delegation from Kroenke Sports Entertainment, the president of team and media operations, Porrick Smith, Rapids. He's been in there the Rapids are fun right now, and it looks like they got a good one in their new manager. And look, I like Paxton Aronson. I hope he really comes to the fore here. Porrick Smith held on that job for a long time through some very bad moments. They went to New York to make the pitch to Don Garber. I don't know. Man, I don't know. Like, again, easy to make the jokes that say, well, what is this? This is not how you're supposed to run a soccer league. That this is not the way. The way is play the games. Everybody plays each other. Again, competitive integrity. How do you play a team in your league? You just be in the league. But not if you're in MLS. My man, FC Neo Tokyo, MLS has already missed capitalizing on Messi in the World Cup. Why can't we just enjoy the league? Why does everything need to be Premier League level to have fun? Well, that's again, this is the question. This is the tension that exists. The issue of, does MLS need to do this stuff? They will, from a business perspective, say, of course. And ultimately, we are not in a position here to make demands. I say this unfortunately, right? Like, I don't think you can just wish a different environment around American soccer where we get to make demands of the people that own our clubs the same way you might make demands of your baseball team's owners or even your football team's owners. And of course, the NFL is where it is because of how they thought about their business. But those teams are embedded in American sports culture. Like, those teams are part of our civic identity in real, meaningful ways. Like, one of the first things that identifies a person as being from Pittsburgh is the fact they root for the Steelers. Right? If you are from Pittsburgh, you may not be actively a football fan, but Steeler fandom colors your experience as being a person from Pittsburgh. And it can be the same in almost every other NFL town in this country. And that's the same way it is for almost every club you can mention, any club you can name in Europe. Almost every single one of them has that same sort of pull, that same sort of importance to the identity of the people who live in the town where they play. And we can go all the way down the table. Look at what's happening in Leicester right now. Yesterday, after Leicester's draw against Hull, which will have them relegated, barring a massive points deduction for West Brom, for whatever their transgressions are financially, Leicester's going down to League One. They were Premier League champions 10 years ago. They were finishing in the top 5 or 6 of that league 8 years ago, 7 years ago. They were in the Champions League quarterfinals 9 years ago, and now they're in League One. And their fans sat outside of the car park waiting for the players to come out so they could yell at them for how mad they were, angry they were. They went after the owner verbally with their disgust over this. And I'm not saying that that's a good behavior. I'm saying that Leicester City is important to the town of Leicester in the same way that our legacy sports teams are important to us. But we don't have those same kinds of connections yet with our soccer clubs. We may feel them individually. I know Mr. Bob lives and dies with New Mexico United. I know a lot of you have your teams that you care about deeply, and you do think of them as core parts of your identity. But is that true of everybody around you? If you're being honest with yourself, does your town feel the same way about your soccer team that you do in the general sense? I'm willing to bet the answer is no in most cases. So because of that, our ability to make demands of ownership of the people who actually run the clubs that we care about is limited. For them, it's, hey, I'm running a business here, and you're lucky I'm doing it. And yeah, they need to foster some sort of back and forth and make people feel invested emotionally in order to run their business effectively. But that's essentially where the ethos of it is. So when Major League Soccer in 2026, when they are 30 years in, they're still in a place, despite that 30 years, of trying to convince people that their sport matters. And what that means for them is not just we need to make money. Yes, important. But also we need to get more attention to grow the business, but also that grows the sport. And even though these don't always dovetail in ways that make me comfortable, you have to admit, again, that the more people who go out to see Lionel Messi play in any given market, that makes Major League Soccer, even incrementally, even a tiny little bit, more successful. I mean, proving that is tough. Now, if you want a juxtaposition here, Colorado pitching the league, saying, we deserve a Messi game. The story over at a local outlet in Utah about the match tonight, where Real Salt Lake will host Inter Miami. And there's a quote in there. There's a couple of interesting quotes in there. Some of them are from fans who are saying things like, I can't wait to see Lionel Messi. This is a big deal for me. This is what I've always dreamed of. All those things, right? The things that come with, and again, I think it's interesting that the local news outlet, their angle on this is that. Their angle on this is, look how lucky these fans are to be seeing the GOAT come to our little town. Once in a lifetime opportunity to see Lionel Messi. Now, they're not playing this game at some bigger venue. They're playing this game, again, as I mentioned, at America First Stadium, which holds, 20-something thousand, 21,000. They'll sell it out, no problem, even on Wednesday night. Now, if they had taken the game somewhere else, Rice-Eccles Stadium, which I think is, who plays there? University of Utah? that the Utes, the two Utes, if they moved it there, they could sell more tickets, but it wouldn't be the same kind of environment. And I'll give, again, Real Salt Lake credit for this. A guy I know, Trey Fitzgerald, who's been there for a long time. I actually highlighted him in a review of the Mike Petke hand him out tray because that was the tray in question. Anyway, Trey Fitzgerald, he's by far one of the people who makes me feel most proud. Okay, well, I'm sorry, that's actually somebody else. This is about while we may have sold more tickets, there's the quote, and there'd probably be a lot more Messi fans, we do feel an obligation to the loyalty of our 14,000 season ticket holders. And again, competitively, we want to give our team the best chance to win. That's being at home in a favorable atmosphere. I don't know if RSL had to pitch MLS on a game. Like, did they on like, hey, we really think Messi should come to Utah and play in America First Stadium where there's 21,000 seats. I know you've got some people in Denver. I know you got some people in other places. Hey, let's bring Messi to our town and we'll play in the big football stadium. I don't know, man. This is such a weird moment. And it makes you wonder exactly what the full impact will be for Lionel Messi when he's all said and done here. Yeah, I mean, we do all kinds of weird stuff. Soccer night in Detroit. I just want to see a proper football game. 2 years ago, I attended a match at Comerica Park, albeit a baseball stadium, to watch Crystal Palace play Sevilla. That's weird. I don't like soccer in baseball stadiums as a general rule. Yeah. Man, I don't know. I'm going to be trying to watch. I'm going to try to watch that game tonight between RSL and Inter Miami just to see the difference in the atmosphere, the vibe, because I watched some of the game that happened in Denver. And that was a fun one. Inter Miami can't defend. Denver, Colorado rather had a couple of really good goals. Obviously, Messi wins it with that left foot. There's some drama around Messi with Mascherano departing, so there's some things there. All right, that's going to do it for this Wednesday episode of Morning Kickaround. One more call for your support. Please hit like and subscribe on the channel. Like this particular video. Go ahead and do that right now. I'll wait. Thumbs up. And then subscribe to the channel. I think we're creeping ever closer to 8,000 subscribers. We haven't made a big push recently on that. If you just to pull back the curtain, if you guys know, it's tough to gain subscribers on YouTube unless you are paying for YouTube to push your product. So if we decide we need to do that, we will. That's obviously where some of your money goes to help grow the show. As I've mentioned before, if you sign up as an Ultra for a couple bucks a month, you get access to the MK Ultra Discord. There's bonus content around that for Ultras as well. We'll be doing discounts on some of the merch that we've got over at Morning Kickaround's Fourth Wall page. Again, I think it's morning-kickaround-shop.fourthwall.com. We're having issues with the YouTube channel linking up with Fourth Wall, but you can just go straight to the shop, morning-kickaround-shop.fourthwall.com. I think we sold a jersey yesterday. We do have images of the finished product, the jerseys that Bastion is doing for us, the first ever Morning Kickaround shirt. The first run will be going out to people very soon. I've been told to expect the shipment, and we will get those out to everybody that bought a shirt. They look good, guys. Like they really do. In fact, let me throw up an image or two. There's the front. There's the back. Again, that blue is going to be a little bit more. It's going to pop a little bit more. It's pretty dark in the pictures, but I've been told, hey, that will be a little more blue and a little less dark, I guess, is the way it was described to be by Mark Jenkinson. So again, if you want a shirt, go over to the Fourth Wall page and order your jersey. There's other gear there as well, including t-shirts, hooded sweatshirts, and hoodless sweatshirts, and the Mr. Bob mug, which you can use to drink beverages out of, I'm told. It's a fine holder of various beverages. Another mention of our May 9th show in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, on the road. Morning Kickaround's second ever live show will be at Centerville Bank Stadium in Pawtucket, Rhode Island for Rhode Island FC versus the Tampa Bay Rowdies. We're going to be on the ground in Pawtucket and Rhode Island and southern New Massachusetts, I think, even doing a bunch of stuff. Hopefully eating some really good food and meeting some of the Ultras, meeting some of you who make the show possible. So thank you very much for all of that. I'm sure I'm missing some other plugs. I don't know. Sign up for my newsletter, Soccer Eagle. Jason Davis, Soccer Eagle. Go find that on Google. I'm writing a couple times a week. Wrote on Sporting Kansas City this week already, and I'll have my news roundup going up tomorrow, which is always kind of a fun look at some of the wilder stories happening around American soccer, some of the news items that are out there. That's Good Soccer, Bad Soccer is the name of that news roundup. So sign up for the newsletter. Jason Davis, Soccer Eagle. All right. I think that's it. Thank you very much to everybody who made this go well for me on my own. Rob will be back on Friday. I believe he'll have a guest host as I'm unavailable. But until then, thank you very much for watching Morning Kickaround and enjoy your soccer.